Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
And a good morning to you. How you doing? Hello. On a bizarrely warm day in October, actually the 14th. I know I told you that my sister was going to be on today while I was lying. I've lost all credibility. I forgot that she can't be on the air because she's in the air. In flight, as they say. Well, she's supposed to be in flight. Who knows? You know, she's probably sitting in some airport somewhere, cursing. Oh, Lord. There's so you know, the newspaper's getting to be sort of funny to me. I don't know. I don't think I was talking to this older woman on the bus yesterday, and she says that she's an independent and she thinks she needs to read everything. She doesn't like a one-sided argument, so she listens to this and she reads that and she feels she has to. And I said, yeah, how's your health? And she said, well, it does make me very distressed. I said, yeah. I said, I really think, you know, she was like a conscientious citizen, an older person who feels she needs to pay attention and, you know. But she feels nothing but distress and helplessness when she reads. Is everything okay?
Yeah, I think. Were you listening to something on your phone? Because I think I can hear it.
You can hear my phone?
Yeah, I think so.
How could you hear my phone?
No, but I can hear something. But I don't know.
Well, I don't know, but it ain't. Don't accuse me. Why? Why is it my phone? There's nothing happening on my phone.
Okay, good.
Okay, but you're hearing something. Anybody else hearing things? We're hearing voices. God. So, but sometimes I just laugh. I mean, someday I'm just going to come in here and what we'll do is I'm just going to read the headlines because one after the other is, any one of them would make you nervous or concerned. But the onslaught that is the morning news is really getting pretty astonishing. I must admit, I was just reading something that some doctor wrote who said that we're all getting mixed messages on the Ebola thing. The American public is. One is panic. The other one is calm down. Right? Those are the two. So for every story you read that essentially tells you things that could certainly set off panic in a reasonable person, there's another one, although I think there are fewer of those, that have the calm down aspect to them. They're mostly the unspoken thing is panic, because there's a sense that the people who are supposed to know what they're doing don't. And that the initial prognostications and statements from people like this guy, the head of the CDC, and others that we're going to stop this thing, don't worry, dead in its tracks. I mean, we can stop this. To now, what's he saying now? He said something today or yesterday that didn't sound like we're going to stop it in its tracks. He said something about it being difficult. It's just, for somebody trying to maintain some balance, it's difficult. And then you do have people who are. I mean, their job is to keep a cool head, losing their heads. I give you the top law enforcement officer in the great state of Louisiana. Well, I give you a caller first. Hang on. Caller, hi.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi.
You are wonderfully loud, might I say, on the phone.
Oh.
I can hear you. It's incredible. It's like a real phone conversation.
So you mean God, you mean it's fixed?
It's like a dialogue.
Good.
So listen, I have 100 years ago today.
Yeah.
You ready?
I'm okay. So it's 1940. All right.
The Imperial Japanese Navy attempts air-to-air combat for the first time and attacks the German reconnaissance plane. Civilization reminds Wilhelm II of the rules of war in the Hague Treaty.
Yeah.
Germans press toward Ostend and race to sea. Belgium moves its capital to France. The Battle of Armentières begins.
Oh.
Londoners advised to seek cellars in event of German bombing.
Oh.
Cholera is spreading over the entire dual monarchy, new cases averaging 40 a day. France bombed France, Germans bombed Paris. Not to mention the fact that 100 years ago this year, the last passenger pigeon died.
Oh, God.
So, I mean...
This goes under the heading, it was ever thus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My point exactly. So I thought I would throw that. I've kind of been meaning to do that because it's so great to be able to hear you.
Oh, thank you very much.
But last week there was you kind of got into one of these, and I meant to do it last week, and I didn't get the chance.
Okay,
so, yeah,
it's true.
I mean, it's the First World War, people, 100 years ago.
Yeah.
So.
Oh,
okay.
yeah. But okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. But that turned out to be this horrible thing that then begot the Second World War. That then begot whatever. I guess it's all on a continuum of disaster. So anyway, back to the non-cool heads of elected officials during this health crisis. Louisiana's top law enforcement official said he has a restraining order to prevent the personal items of Mr. Duncan, who died in Dallas from Ebola, from being buried in a Louisiana landfill after they have been incinerated in Texas. Now, this is where I guess these things, there's a hazardous landfill in Louisiana that has always been the receiving point of hazardous waste from Texas or this hospital. And he says he will not allow it. He said the incinerated material is not coming here. Okay, but see, here's where science and knowledge can be helpful. But generally speaking, I suppose these Republicans don't believe in science or reason or calmness, because the virus does not survive incineration. It does not survive on materials that are incinerated There ain't no virus there. I guess the question could be asked, well, then why does it have to be in a hazardous waste dump site if, in fact, it's not hazardous anymore? But I suspect that's just an overabundance of caution. I don't know. So, panic and calm down. Oh, this just in. We've been talking a little avian talk these days. Birds, that little parakeet over there in somewhere at a bird feeder. Going to be happy today. Going to be happy all week, as a matter of fact. But winters are coming, and our poor friend Mike is trying to figure out and trying to get somebody to help him capture the bird and bring it in so that it won't die in our harsh winters. So and he's still trying. I mean, he's thinking on it. This is really sort of taken over, and I think he feels very isolated. I think the aviary sort of said, pfft. Critter control said, pfft. Our friend Noreen said, pfft. And so he doesn't. He appreciated Mary's peanut butter on a stick approach of yesterday. He's willing to give it a shot, but I don't think he thinks that's going to work. Anyway, here's a little piece. It's another bird story, and this has to do with a parrot. In fact, a African gray, okay? And this African gray parrot disappeared from its owner 4 years ago. And the owner was understandably distraught. The owner lived in California someplace, but was originally from England and had a British accent. And so this parrot spoke with a British accent. And that was part of its, British-speaking parrot, be on the lookout for. That was one of the ways if you happen to see a parrot. And he spoke with a clipped British accent. That was the one that belonged to this guy, Darren Chick. His name is Chick. Oh, God. So, somehow the bird was found 4 years after it disappeared, and this had to do because of chip technology. I guess the bird did have a chip, and finally, he was tracked down. So Nigel, the African gray, English-speaking parrot, was brought back to his very, very thrilled owner, who was not expecting to ever see him again. But here's the problem. Nigel, that's the bird, Nigel now speaks Spanish. The bird is talking incessantly in Spanish. And actually, when his previous owner picked him up, he pecked at him. Does not recognize the former owner. I'm sure he does, but maybe he was having more fun with the Spanish guy. I wish I'd know more about this story, but that's all I've got. 4 years later, Nigel comes home, but he's a different bird. In fact, he's a Spanish bird. All right. Good news. Good news. I look for it. I scour through all kinds of sources to bring you good news, because invariably these days it seems like all I'm doing is depressing the hell out of you. So listen to this. This has to do with Ferguson, Missouri. You wouldn't think any good news is coming out of there, but the good news is often out of this horrible stuff, there does come good. One of the good things that's come out of Ferguson is, I think, a few more people throughout the country have awakened to the problems we have with police, and that justice is not equally dispensed. Oh, more on that later. I actually have some numbers beyond belief. Anyway, since Michael Brown was gunned down on that street, and that was in August. 3,000 people in Ferguson have registered to vote. And this is a town of 21,000. So 3,000 new voters is huge. And methinks if those voters actually then exercise their right to vote, that at least Ferguson can rid itself of its all-white council overlords and have a representative government, which might be a first step toward some measure of true democracy and justice in that town. So that's good news. 3,000. I mean, if it took his death to wake up 3,000 people to say, geez, I gotta vote. Because if we control the council, I don't know that we would have allowed this police chief. We wouldn't have hired him. I also don't think we would have allowed the department to be essentially all white. So this is good. But speaking of the numbers, in terms of justice, and this is why I cannot believe that there are white Americans who don't know this or get this or believe it or understand it or for some reason are not willing to process it. But there are numbers that prove that black Americans get the short end of the stick in our Justice Department. Yesterday I shared a quote with you, and it was this, and this is true. We have a system that treats rich, guilty people better than poor, innocent people. And here's some numbers. Drug arrests. Every piece of information that's ever been gathered about drug usage, drug dealing, finds the same thing over and over and over, ad nauseum. The percentages of African Americans, the percentages of white Americans who use illegal substances are pretty much the same. The same. Yet, because of media, news media, always seemingly finding a black person's picture when they're talking about drugs, or parading black dealers in front of media for, because the cops want to show that they're tough on crime. The fact of the matter is that white folks, actually by virtue of their numbers, constitute much more of the illegal drug users in this country than black people. And yet, this is from the Justice Department. It keeps the numbers. The Justice Department says black Americans are arrested for drugs 3 times the rate of whites. 3 times the rate. I don't know. So this is equal justice? I don't think so. Just look at one city, Seattle, because Seattle did look at itself. They kept the numbers for a while, and they found out that observable drug dealing, blacks made up 16% of drug dealers. However, they made up 64% of those arrested for dealing. They're just 16% dealing. They're 64% arrests. And the same holds true for traffic stops. Numbers out of New Jersey underscore the same thing. Got a call. Hello, caller. Hello.
Good morning.
Hi.
Hey, you know how to solve this problem with the police, with this lethal force? Make them pay for their insurance, their liability insurance, when they go to the court, where the police department has it. Have them pay part of it. And when their premiums are going up and they're paying part of that, they'll stop using lethal force because they go to courts a lot and it's costing the insurance a lot, and, you know, there's lawsuits and whatever. Make them pay part of it.
Have you ever heard of a police union?
Well, not everywhere has that, though.
Yeah. Well,
The way unions are, they're not around. I mean, there's a few.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. However, there's plenty of police unions. I think
now there is, but
well, okay, so no union's going to agree to that. But you know, ultimately, that liability, it's you and me that pay for it, because the cities have to pay that insurance, right?
Right,
and we have to do the
pay. On
payouts.
the police.
Okay. It ain't gonna happen
When it
in your
hits your
dreams.
pocketbook, they'll stop using
Well, yeah,
lethal
I
force.
know. In your dreams.
No, they won't do it. I know that. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you're just
I
saying.
know they won't do it.
No, they
That's
won't.
how you solve the problem in a lot of that.
Well, but if they won't do it, that's not how you solve the problem. I hate to
Get
be.
the right people in there, you could change it.
Okay. Yeah. Vote.
Well, that don't do good. The Republicans and Democrats are basically the same.
No, they're not.
Oh, yeah. I guarantee you get Hillary Clinton in there, and she'll be having us in a ground war, because she's a war hawk. She doesn't like unions. Her husband didn't like unions. They're for NAFTA, for all that trading, global economy. They are a Republican. I think she was a Republican at one time.
No. Or
I'm
maybe
not
she was
crazy
raised, her
about it,
father
really.
was a Republican. I mean, grew up in a Republican house.
I think
Look,
she was a Republican for a while.
Okay, she is not. Yeah, I'm not a great fan of Hillary's.
Me either.
But I'll tell you, I sure as hell am going to be more of a fan of hers than whoever these Republicans put out. So, she's my girl.
Well, that don't mean she's going to win. She didn't win last time. You might be stuck with Romney.
You think he's going to run again? He could. Who knows? Oh, dear
and these
God.
people are so stupid, they'll vote for him. They'll think
sure.
the Democrats ain't worth a shit because they have a real small attention span. You know how that is.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye. He's always got an answer. It's never exactly what you'd call practical, but he's always got an answer. Okay, just one more thing about the unbelievable inequality of justice in this country racially. And this from the New Jersey Turnpike, a place you don't necessarily want to be. 15% of drivers on the New Jersey Turnpike are African American. 15%. Guess what percentage they are of stopped cars? Almost half. DWB, driving while black. It is a true crime in the eyes of law enforcement in this country. Also, there's no evidence that black drivers truly break the driving laws anymore. They're harassed. African Americans are harassed regularly. Harassed right into prison. Harassed right into, it just unbelievable. And I will say again what I have said for years and years. If I were an African American, I think I'd be dead. I would either be consumed by my rage, or I would have mouthed off to a cop. I don't know. I sure as hell wouldn't be where I am if I were black. Okay. I found this on the bus today. I take you to the state of New Hampshire, which is so bizarre politically. It really is. My Lord. I mean, not in a good way. New Hampshire voters are bizarros. Anyway, so here's what it is. There is a congresswoman from New Hampshire named Annie Kuster, and she is running for re-election, the November election coming up. She's being challenged by a Tea Party candidate who Ted Cruz and the Club for Growth think is the greatest thing in the world. Her name is Marilinda Garcia. So you have two women. God knows you never see that around here. You have two women running for the same congressional seat. The incumbent challenged by a Tea Partier. And one of the state Republicans campaigning for the Tea Partier said this. He said a number of things, but all in the same vein. Let me share with you if you haven't heard it. Let's be honest. Does anyone not believe that Congressman Annie Kuster is as ugly as sin? And I hope I haven't offended sin. Then he goes on to compare her looks with the Tea Partier. And if I may be so bold as to speak the truth, Republican Marilinda Garcia is one of the more attractive women on the political scene anywhere. Not so attractive as to be intimidating, but truly attractive. Oh my God. I mean, you don't even... Yeah, vomitus. He then went on to say that he thinks of the Democrat, Kuster, ugly as sin, every time he walks by a bar in Montreal where a drag queen is always stationed outside. And I always think, he says, that Annie Kuster looks more like a drag queen than most men in drag. This is political discourse in the US of A. This idiot, this jerk, is comparing the two women running for Congress by their looks. And I especially love the line that the Republican is attractive, but not so attractive as to be intimidating. I would like some man to explain that one to me. I'm not quite sure what that means, because I thought the problem with women being too attractive is not that they become intimidating, but they then just become eye candy, because you can't be too attractive and be taken seriously. Or is it that a schlump like him would be intimidated by a va-va-va-voom woman because he'd know he'd have no chance with her? Is that what that is? I don't know. Good God in heaven. So anyway, he's saying he has heard that attractiveness gives you a leg up. And there are studies that say that. Attractiveness gives you a leg up. Attractive people make more, attractive people. And he says this woman's going to lose because she's ugly as sin. Go ahead, please. Caller? Hi.
Hey, Lynn. It's Mike from D.C.
Hi.
He means disarming, that her beauty is not disarming.
How is intimidating disarming?
Well, when there's a really pretty woman, or guy in my case, I'm stuck at what to say or how to respond. I'm disarmed I'm disarmed by the argument because they're so attractive. I can't think of anything else.
I think you're misusing the word disarmed.
Okay.
Are you thinking of it as you are unarmed? You are deprived of your defenses? You are disarmed. I've considered disarmed, and maybe I'm wrong, I consider being disarmed as being charmed.
Yeah.
Hey, Celine, look it up. See what let's look up disarmed and see what it means. I think, so you're saying...
He doesn't mean intimidated as in, I'll do whatever they say because she's so pretty. He means, I'm guessing, I don't know, who knows what's in their crazy head.
He's saying that he's just like so flibberty-gibbeted because she's so gorgeous he can't even see straight.
Yeah, and I'm certainly not taking his side.
No, I know that. No, yeah, I was asking what the, okay, here's disarmed. Here, if you turn this mic on, you can then talk into it.
Okay, should be on.
It should be on? Okay, here we go.
Okay. To disarm.
To
deprive of means, reason, or disposition to be hostile.
Deprive of the means to be...
Means, reason, or disposition to be hostile.
Means, disposition, or reason to be hostile. Okay, so you're disarmed. You go in feeling like, one thing, and then you're charmed.
Yeah.
I think.
To win over.
To win over. Okay, thanks. Yeah, okay. Well, maybe. What a jerk.
Well, maybe he's just a total asshole.
Well, of course that's what it is. He's just a total asshole.
And, I'm sure he doesn't even think it's misogynistic to compare looks or women, but I would be interested to know what percentage of the population of men would or wouldn't vote for a woman because of her looks.
My sense is men would be more willing to vote for a, let's say, homely woman than they would for an attractive woman. Now, why do I think that? Sort of that they would think, well, that homely woman, she doesn't. She's probably spent all her time studying. Nobody asks her out. She's probably a real hard worker. And she's not intimidating. Don't you? I don't know. I don't know.
Well, that's all I have to say.
Okay, well, thank you.
One more thing. For anybody who's listening, announcement to the world. Lynn picks up her own phone. That drives me crazy when people call in and say, I can't get the show, and then they find out that it's you. Tell them again, you pick up the phone.
Okay, yeah, I understand.
Thanks,
okay, bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have any of those fancy, screening kinds of gizmos or anything like that. We just take what comes. It's like Russian roulette. Dang it! And I don't have my cough drop because it seemed to be causing trouble, so I'm just going to have to cough in your ears. But I know in terms of like a really ridiculously handsome man, I sometimes have trouble maintaining eye contact with somebody who's that gorgeous. You do find yourself sort of like looking at your feet and stuff. There's such a thing as being too good looking. It's just, it's like you're blinded by them, and you cannot get past it. At least I can't. I like a person to look like a regular person, not some friggin' god. Starts you off on a, uneven surface. Hey guys, my one-woman show kicks off and ends on November 17th. Tickets are available right now online. Get them while they're hot because I think they're going to go pretty fast. You have to go to Planned Parenthood of Western Pennsylvania's website. Planned Parenthood in Pittsburgh. Google it. You'll get to the website, and you'll see Lynn Cullen's Wild Ride. Click on it. You'll go right to the, the way to purchase the tickets and all that kind of stuff. Jump on it and spread the word, would you? Because this benefits a great organization on the front lines of the battles over women's health, Planned Parenthood. I think I shall take a bit of a break and return. I realize I have not looked at the email at all, so I'll get that under control and we'll be right back.
Download the brand new CP Haps app and find out what's going on in Pittsburgh. It's the fun and free app that puts the most popular events at your fingertips. Text events to 77948 to download now and register to win tickets to Pittsburgh versus New Orleans at Heinz Field on November 30th. The CP Haps app, brought to you by Pittsburgh City Paper.
While cutting molding with a 12-inch dual compound miter saw, while holding a newborn baby in your arms, when face-to-face with a congregation of alligators, with the ball in your hands and the entire freaking season on the line.
There are a million places you'd never consider texting, so why would you do it while driving? NASCAR driver Casey Kane here, asking you to please stop the text, and together we can stop the wrecks.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Get the message at stoptextstoprex.org.
BurgBargains.com is your best bet for great deals in the Burg. Log on today for exclusive bargains from Molly's Trolley's Terror Trolley, Bangkok Balcony, Verde, Just Ducky Tours, and Go Ape. BurgBargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. BurgBargains.com.
Dave, what are you doing?
Just sending a gift to Dave 2037.
Who?
Me in the future. I save a little money from every paycheck for Dave 2037 so he can buy anti-gravity boots or a hologram Doberman. What are you getting Steve 2037?
Steve 2037 will be just fine.
Well, okay, but don't expect to borrow my anti-gravity boots.
Save something for the future. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1,000,000. For free ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
All right, we have emails on the birds. Ray writing in, Ray the Irishman, who has no use for the Brits, as he's let us know many a time, regarding Nigel the parrot, who came back to his owner not speaking English anymore, but rather speaking Spanish. Ray writes, even birds want to distance themselves from the English. Okay, Roger has an idea about capturing that dang parakeet. At first, this may seem cruel, he says. I can't wait to hear what it is. But if you bait the parakeet with food, but do it over a glue trap, assuming those are non-poisonous, and once trapped, get it to the vet right away. Better than freezing to death. All right, we appreciate all these efforts to help. And somebody's come up, Gigi's come up with, there's a organization called Wild Bird Recovery. Well, that sounds like a good idea, but are they here? Wild Bird Recovery. She's heard good things about them. For some reason, their website ain't coming up, but I will. I'll let them know. I'll let them know. Maybe that'll be helpful. All this for a dang bird. Okay, Wild Bird Recovery, nonprofit, state and federally licensed. Western PA.
Valencia.
In Valencia. There we go. That'd be it. Hey, Gigi, thanks a million. I will forward that on to our guy. That's great. Well, maybe they can. Maybe they'll do it. Who knows? There's probably one or two people working there, right? I mean, it's a nonprofit. It's probably all volunteers. Doing their damnedest. Here's a man's opinion from William. I'm a man, and I have absolutely no idea what Valencourt? What? I don't know what that means. Okay. And Melanie on leaf blowers. I had to laugh last night when I was streaming your show from yesterday. The commercial before the show started was for a leaf blower. Your favorite thing. Yeah, my favorite thing. I hate them. I hate them with a passion. I want to kill every one of them. Whatever happened to a rake? Whatever happened to doing some physical labor? Whatever happened to blisters on your hands? So, yeah, they just befoul the environment in every way. In terms of, why am I seeing little sparkles on that building? Well, I'm either having a hallucinatory experience here. Wow. Do you see right over there on the very edge of K&L Gates? Do you see like little sparkles? Uh-huh. Well, what the heck do you think that would be?
Looks like lights.
Looks like lights? What are they dancing around on the outside of that thing for? Like little laser pointers. They were never there before.
Are they doing construction?
No! Well, I'm glad you're seeing them, because I don't trust my perceptions anymore. At all. At all. Leaf blowers. Dear God in heaven. You know, you're trying to relax. You're outdoors. You're reading a book in the sun. And they start up. And then as soon as one stops, another one starts. And even if it's 10 houses away, you can't hear the tweet, tweet, tweet of the birds. You can't hear yourself think. Good. And they do put more crap in the air besides the sound pollution. Unbelievable. We're really a piece of work. Us Homo sapiens. Okay, I found this to be a really, really, really good column. I'm not going to read it all to you. It was in the Washington Post. And it has to do with this, us getting pulled back into a military situation in the Middle East. It's by a guy named Andrew Basovich. And he points out that since 1980, so what is that? That's almost 40 years. The United States we have invaded or occupied or bombed 14 Muslim countries since 1980. 14. None of them, of course, had declared war. We'd sure as hell call it war if anybody invaded, occupied, or bombed us. So that's 4 Muslim countries. How to win friends and influence people. Bomb them. Occupy them. Invade them. All right. So, almost every single time, whether or not we ever achieved whatever it was we said we were bombing, invading, or blah, 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 whether or not we got the job done, we rarely did, the interventions, according to Mr. Basovich, have created more problems than they have ever solved. So that even if we win, we lose. I wish we could remember that, because he's absolutely right. Even if we win, we lose. He calls all these well-intentioned efforts on our part, sometimes well-intentioned, fool's errands, because every time we win, we lose. Usually we just lose. He says that in an effort to maintain stability, or humanitarian concerns, or safeguard our oil supply, we're always thinking, why are we thinking this with this record, that somehow we're going to make things better? we always figure that, well, this sort of like short-term chaos and, death will result in some kind of long-term order. Democracy, for instance, will spread. Right? Have you been watching democracy spread there in the Middle East? Yeah. That was the Republicans' great dream. Yeah. And you know how we spread it? We spread it by bombing, invading, and occupying. He says, what we do is we are forever like knocking someone out of power, like Saddam Hussein or Muammar Gaddafi, or aiding in that effort. And then, rather than creating any order, we create a power vacuum. And lo and behold, there's always folks willing to fill that vacuum. So, and they're always indigenous groups. And they always are, ISIS is the latest one. He says, let's say we defeat ISIS, which, by the way, we don't seem to be doing at all. Let's say we defeat ISIS. He says that's not going to stop this idiotic cycle, these fool's errands we're on. Because another group, God knows we've seen this. We've had to learn all these different groups' names, right? If ISIS somehow gets taken down, there will be on its heels another group stepping up. And he says, why can't we come to terms with the reality that no matter how long it lasts, our constant war in the Middle East is going to end in failure? That is the one thing that any observer of the history can see. I always think that the only way you learn is through making mistakes. I mean, personally, that's how it's worked for me. I think constant success is not a good teacher. I think failure is a good teacher. But I must say, the government of the United States is proving that old saw wrong. We refuse to learn from our mistakes. We just jump right back in and do it all over again. Now, I know this Islamic civil war, which is essentially, I think, what's going on, and also a war between modernity and the control of fundamentalist religion. I mean, these are big, big things that are happening there. And they involve us only in that the destabilization of this huge region, let us add an adjective to that, this huge oil-rich region, invariably has an impact on our economy, on us, on other politics, on the global economy. And so, yes, we have an interest. But you have to admit, if you were grading us through Republican administrations and Democratic administrations, if you were grading us on our efforts in the Middle East, what would that grade be? Even you easy graders, you would struggle to give us a D. Just saying. Chris wants to know, where's Susan? She's flying somewhere. Chris missed the first 5 minutes. Where's Susan? I see her picture. Oh, yeah, we did put we were thinking she was here, but we forgot. Also, I was off the record. I saw your picture in the scene column. You did? I didn't. Oh, online. Oh, I took a picture with Ken Rice. Did I look like an idiot? I usually do. I hate having my picture taken. Even the photographer said after the first picture, let's try that again. You know, Ken he's an attractive man, and I just look now like an old lady standing next to him. Oh, jeez. Okay. And then Chris says, one last thing, so you're not going to be on 4802 this Friday? No, I'm not! I didn't mean to scream. Are you on next Friday? I suspect. I missed you if you were on this past... Well, I was on this past Friday, and you missed me. Believe me. As I said, nothing much happened except that I sat there with my mouth hanging open a lot like I do, in disbelief at what Bill Green and Heather were saying. And then they said things like, I am ashamed of you, Lynn, for saying things like, that are, I consider, great wisdom and truth. Oh, I got a headache. Okay, so, a few other things here. Oh, and I'm not disregarding, I know there's been horrible violence. A lot of black men are dying in this city, left and right. And finally made the front page today in the Post-Gazette, and I tip my hat to him. I just didn't have the whatever to go there today. I was thinking of this new police chief we have. Actually, I don't think he's even been, confirmed by the council yet. But our new cop head, police chief, coming out of Madison, Wisconsin, where the murder rate, he has now, in the few weeks he's been here, I think, seen more murders than he would have in a year in Madison. And I bet he is. The good news is here's a guy coming in from someplace else and looking with a fresh, absolutely fresh perspective at this. And so I'm almost looking forward to seeing when his leadership really kicks in, how he will attack this. I don't think he's going to be a popular police chief. The cops ain't going to like him because he's going to have to change their culture. But, God, I wish him well. So the other big story, which raised a lot of eyebrows and maybe a few hopes as well, is this synod at the Vatican. And people are saying this is starting to look a little like it might be like Vatican II, which was back there in the 60s, I believe, 60s, and in which Pope John, liberalized in many ways the church. That's where the Latin Mass went packing. That's where all kinds of things happened, much to the consternation, of course, of the conservatives in the church, who ever since tried to push Vatican II back, and have done pretty good. But now we got Francis, and he's more in line with Pope John, and he's called this synod. That's a panel of bishops and other top clergy. And they're having these meetings and trying to come up with, different teachings of what the church is about, if I understand this correctly. Now, what has come out is a sort of working paper. It's nothing set in stone. But the working paper that has come out, some people who watch this stuff are saying that it is extraordinary in terms of the changes it might foretell. For one thing, the document, get this, is being called empathetic and non-judgmental. What? This is coming out of the Vatican? It's empathetic and non-judgmental. Does that sound like Pope Francis? Yes, it does. And it is non-judgmental in tone. And it discusses everything from people who live together without marriage to people who divorce. It talks about same-sex couples. And as I said, what's extraordinary is it talks about them in an empathetic tone. The conservatives in the church are going ballistic. One group, it's a global coalition of traditional Catholic groups. It's called Voice of the Family. And it says what they've seen so far from this statement is nothing less than a betrayal. So, I was thinking, man, we've been watching this Islamic civil war. Maybe we're about to see a Catholic civil war, too. Cardinal Wuerl, by the way, our former bishop here, is on the panel, and he was put there by the Pope. And part of what they say is that the church must, I'm going to quote here, turn respectfully to gay couples. And turn respectfully to those who are unmarried but cohabiting. And get this, quote, appreciate the positive values that those relationships may have. I can see where someone looking at that would say, this is extraordinary. This is potentially a game changer here. Wooey. They even use the word partners. And this guy who reads this stuff, he said, the church has never, ever used that word. They use husband and wife, husband and wife, husband and wife. And now they're talking about partners. And they've never before pointed out the love in these relationships, the mutual care in these relationships. And this suggests a potential sea change. The document goes on to praise the contributions of gays and lesbians and what they can do for the church. And then here's where it's not like they still don't think it's a sin. So here's where they say, here it comes out, but here's the new tone a bit. Without denying the moral problems connected to homosexuality or to homosexual unions, it has to be noted that there are cases in which mutual aid to the point of sacrifice, they're talking about love, a loving relationship. They get a little, you can see this must have taken, I can imagine the committee meeting that hammered this sentence out because this sentence is sort of tortured. Without denying the moral problems connected to homosexual unions, it has to be noted that there are cases in which mutual aid to the point of sacrifice constitutes a precious support in the life of these partners. I think what they are saying there is that even though they're homosexuals, it looks like, I mean, if you look at it, that these are some like really wonderful marriages. Not always, but then of course in the heterosexual realm, same could be said. So that's great. Now, it has to go to the full, it goes now into a bigger venue, and the odds are that that's going to get really ugly. It's intended as a jumping off point for discussion. It will be rewritten. And later this weekend, and is meant to launch a year of conversation and reflection among Catholics. And then next year, the Pope has called for a second synod. And he's looking, so this guy is, this is good. This is good. All right, what? Ray's writing about the lights on the building? They're not there anymore. They've stopped flashing. They looked to me like they weren't coming from in the building. They were like being reflected onto the building. The iron structure on the new PNC building is going up. You're probably seeing reflections of the welding. That's a good guess, but I'm looking at the side of a building that is facing away from that, unless it's bouncing off another building and then coming back. But that freaked me out for a second. I go, what is that? But thank you, Ray. Almost out of time. I think that's it. Oh, Clarence sent me the picture of me with Ken Rice. Is it hideous? I can't stand looking at pictures of myself. Please, please. Shall I look? Shall I look? Oh, it's not bad! Shit! It's not bad. You know what's funny about me and Ken Rice? I'm quite a bit older. And he was a kid in short pants when I was the first anchor woman on television in Madison, Wisconsin, which has been talked about before. And shortly after I decamped to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Ken Rice graduated from school somewhere, I think maybe the University of Wisconsin, and he ends up at the same station in Madison I was at. And then he comes here to Pittsburgh. And I said to him, the first time I saw him when he came into Pittsburgh, I said, "What are you doing? You following me?" Because he always seemed to be. Nice guy. Nice guy. And that's not a bad picture. I could pass him off as my hubby if I need looks like a nice couple. Both graying a bit. All right, that's it. Thank you, Clarence, by the way, for sending me that. I appreciate it. And I think we're out of time. And tomorrow, creeps in this petty pace from day to day. I don't know what that means. Goodbye.